Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Sports Talk with Sam Teets. I apologize if there's a little echo here on the recording. I'm working on getting a microphone set, and I just have to check out some models and look at what's best to use. But right now, I'm recording in my kitchen, so it's a little bit of an echoey chamber right now. But I want to get back to the top 200 players for the 2021 NFL season. I've already done one episode covering numbers 200 through 150. As done my articles, I have articles posted on a Substack account called Sports Talk with Sam Teets, same as the show title, where you can go check all my articles out for free if you want. It's also pinned. The link to it is pinned on my Twitter page at Sam_Teets33. That's SAM_TEETS33. For now, let's jump right back into it. I've already covered numbers 200 through 150 as well as the rules for the whole article system. It's projections for 2021, not based on previous success, not based on last year. It's projection based. So players can have bounce back years, players can have regression years. And I finished off last episode by talking about number 150, Joe Mixon, some of the struggles he's had, the offensive line, those kind of issues. So I've had Joe Mixon at 150 as my running back 15. At 149, I have Kenny Clark, who's the 12th interior defensive lineman on this list for the Green Bay Packers. He's been a solid player. I kind of peaked 2 or 3 years ago at this point. It's troublesome because Clark is still a very good interior run defender, but no longer at the same level where he's applying pressure in 2017, 2018, he's dropped back a little bit in that sense. So 149, defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman number 12. 148, a huge projection here. Joe Burrow is quarterback 15 for me. Had some flashes last year before, of course, tearing his ACL and MCL. Reports out of Bengals camps have been that he's not looking really comfortable behind the offensive line. There's some issues there. I still have him at QB 15, but I could see him honestly falling as far as QB 21 based on what could happen throughout the year. And if he has a bad season behind that offensive line for Cincinnati, which, again, they added Riley Reef. Jackson Carman's apparently not in enough shape to start, so it's kind of up and down for that offensive line at this point. But I've got Joe Burrow at 148. 147, offensive tackle 17, I have Lane Johnson. Johnson missed some games last year. He had some surgery. He's had injury issues in the past, but he's been one of the best right tackles, one of the best tackles overall in football when healthy, especially dating back to that 2017 and 2019 range. So I have Lane Johnson here, offensive tackle 17, player number 147. Player 146, quarterback 14, it's Baker Mayfield. Mayfield looked good after maybe the first 4 or 5 games last year where he kind of struggled to start the season off. Looked good the rest of the way. My main concern here is, can he be the engine of the offense? Right now, that running game is kind of the central factor here for the Cleveland Browns. Can Baker Mayfield play a larger role in getting that unit to move and getting that unit to function? If he does, then he's probably going to get that extension that he wants. Another Cleveland Brown at 145, wide receiver 19, it's Odell Beckham. If Odell Beckham Jr. can stay healthy, he's going to be a top 20 wide receiver. It's just going to happen. The concerns have been that he was not healthy last year, and he's not gelled well with Baker Mayfield so far during his time with the Browns. And being honestly, Odell Beckham really has one good year in the last 4 or 5 seasons. He opened his career on a tear. The first 3 years, he was phenomenal. And I think the last year in New York might have been the year that he was actually pretty good as well, but he missed time with injuries during that season. So he doesn't have a lot of recent superstar success. Number 144, cornerback 12, it's J.C. Jackson from New England. He's been a turnover machine for the Patriots. Intercepting passes left and right. They're going to need him to step up because Stefan Gilmore, who appears later in the countdown, despite the fact he's opening the year on the PUP list, because I did not know he was on the PUP list when I wrote the article. When I started writing that, I got a large way through the top 200 before it was announced that him and Michael Thomas would be on the PUP list. I got through, I think, the top 100 players. I was going into, players number 100 through 80, I think. And it was announced, by the way, Stefan Gilmore and Michael Thomas can open the year on the PUP list. I already knew Michael Thomas was probably going to. I did not know Stefan Gilmore would. So Stefan Gilmore is ranked ahead of J.C. Jackson, which probably should not be the case. I'm just giving you the heads up for when he shows up later in the video. That'd probably actually be the next video/podcast I do. 143, a player who's since been injured and ruled out for the year since appearing on the ranking. I had J.K. Dobbins here, who's going to be on a running back 14. Spoiler alert, he's not playing this year. He suffered a serious injury. He's going to miss the entire season, unfortunately, for them. That makes it several running backs now that I would have considered or would have ranked in the top 200 that have had season-ending injuries here in the preseason or in training camp. Cam Akers being another one. I would not have ranked Travis Etienne just because his role is so up in the air, but I would have considered putting him on the top 200 as well. 142, Terry McLaurin is wide receiver 18. I don't know how much of a step forward he'll take this year. Last year, obviously, he was playing with Dwayne Haskins, Alex Smith. Alex Smith, a phenomenal story, but just was not a great quarterback this past year. Dwayne Haskins obviously was not either. Couldn't even beat up Mason Rudolph for the quarterback 2 job in Pittsburgh. So I think Terry McLaurin will benefit a lot from playing with Ryan Fitzpatrick. How much remains to be seen. Amari Cooper right ahead of him. Wide receiver 17 for me at 141 overall. Cooper's productive, but he's always between basically 1,000 yards and 1,200. I don't think he's ever hit 1,200 or more. So he's kind of capped to me as maybe a top 20 receiver because he's not been elite at any point in his career. He's always been productive, yes. He's always been a Pro Bowler, but he's never been elite in any single year. Could that change this season? Possibly, but history says not to bank on it necessarily. All right, so we got through 141. Let me find the next part so we can get to the 130s. Need to pull up part 4 here, so I'm pulling up the articles right now, just reading off the articles. Tight end number 140, David Montgomery for the Chicago Bears. I know Tariq Cohen's coming back and he takes some of the receiving production Montgomery had last year, but David Montgomery is my running back 13, number 140 overall, because he was such a good runner this past year, despite having a up and down and really not productive rookie season. Well, at least not an efficient rookie season. 139, QB 13, it's Kirk Cousins. Cousins had a terrible start to last year. It was awful through like the first 6 games. And it had like a pass rating like a 113 or something like that in the final rest of the year. He was phenomenal towards his down the stretch in the end of the season. And he just wiped out. Yeah, he averaged a 113.6 passer rating over the final couple games, I think the final 10 games of last season. So bad start, and then he started cooking a little bit through the year. Cousins to me he gets a lot of slander. I understand why, because he's a bit of a limited quarterback, but he's always going to be a top 15 quarterback at the level he's at. And that's really just not debatable. We look at the production he has. 138, the guy was banged up a little bit right now. It's right tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, Lyle Collins, offensive tackle 16 for me. He looked very, very good in 2019. He was headed towards stardom in 2019. Obviously, this guy's a lot of talent. He was going to be a first-round pick until some things happened leading up to the 2015 draft that led to him falling. But Collins, to me, is going to be a rebound player this year. I have him at 138. 137, safety 15, Darnell Savage. I like Adrian almost more. I think he's the better safety of the duo working together in Green Bay, but Darnell Savage is certainly on his way up and turning in the right direction. Marcus Peters, 136, cornerback number 11. It's so hard to tell what you're going to get from Marcus Peters on a year-on-year basis. Because he has 1 year where he's an All-Pro, next year he's not very good. Then he's an All-Pro, then he's not very good. It bounces back and forth so much with Marcus Peters. It's hard to tell. But I have him on cornerback 11 because he's so up and down. I could not put him in the top 10. But again, I have him at 11 because he does have those very good years every now and then. And by every now and then, I mean basically every other year. And he was not great this past season, so it might be his year to go out there and have an All-Pro performance. 135 overall, tight end number 8 for me. It's Noah Fant. Extremely athletic tight end in Denver. He can hopefully get more targets this year than he did last year, although I don't really know that's going to happen. You have Courtland Sutton coming back. He's going to take a lot of targets away from some other receivers, but I think Noah Fant is headed maybe not for a breakout year this year, maybe it's next year, but he's going to be a guy who's going to have between 600 to 800 receiving yards probably this season. Number 134, right tackle for the Indianapolis Colts, offensive tackle 15 overall. It's Braden Smith. Does not have a very high ceiling to where he is now. He's probably almost capped out at this point. But still, offensive tackle 15. He's still a very good offensive tackle and certainly benefits a lot in the running game for the Indianapolis Colts. Number 133, Mike Gesicki, tight end number 7 from the Miami Dolphins, followed up at 132 by tight end number 6, T.J. Hockenson, to the Detroit Lions. T.J. Hockenson will probably rank a little bit higher because he can get such a large volume of targets this year. I think T.J. Hockenson at some point has been a little bit overrated in past years. I don't think he belongs to the same category as a Darren Waller or a Travis Kelce or George Kittle. I don't think he's anywhere close to that. But just based on volume, he's going to get a lot of targets this year. And Gesicki as well, because I know Tua Tagovailoa felt a lot of comfort targeting him last year. I think it's the same thing that's going to carry over to this season, where Tua's going to look to Gesicki just as that security blanket. Number 131, truly a controversial pick. Linebacker number 8, Devin White. Let me explain myself. All right, Devin White. He's not been good in coverage. He's been terrible in coverage. Outside of the playoffs this year, was actually really good. In the regular season, he's been terrible in coverage. He misses a lot of tackles. He's not been stout in the running game. So linebacker 8, 131. I understand he's got the sacks. I understand he's got the numbers, the tackles. I understand it looks really good in the box sheet and in the box score. He's not been efficient. Now, Now, places that log efficiency and look for that kind of stuff say he's been much worse than 131 overall, much worse than linebacker 8. I am projecting growth here in the areas of pass coverage based on what I saw in the playoffs last year. I'm projecting he'll be a better player in 2020 than he was in 2021. In 2021 than he was in 2020. And if you think, oh, that's just stupid, he should be much higher. Again, not been good in pass coverage. Not been good against the run. He gets blitzed in that system a lot, and that scheme a lot. I understand that. But is that because of the scheme, or is that because they're trying to hide him in pass coverage? It's probably a little bit of both. So that's why he's at 131 linebacker league. Number 130, center 3, Rodney Hudson. Hudson did not have a good year this past season. He was not good for the Raiders last year, or at least not as good as we're used to seeing from him. I think he'll bounce back with Arizona and have a much better year in 2021. Number 129, Chris Godwin, wide receiver 16. He falls out because he was fantastic, by the way, in 2019. The issue is going to be Tom Brady just spreads the ball around so much. I think Mike Evans is going to be getting more of the touchdowns. I think Chris Godwin, Robert Gronkowski is still going to be involved. You're going to have O.J. Howard back in the fold. Antonio Brown's going to get more targets this year because he's not going to miss half the season. So Chris Godwin ends up at 129. 128, tight end 5 is probably a bit of a bold prediction. I got Kyle Pitts here just because of how monstrous he is in terms of just everything. He's just physically everything you could ask for in a tight end. Maybe not a great blocker. I guess maybe not everything you could look for in a tight end. But in terms of like that Darren Waller build, I expect him to have a phenomenal year. He's going to have a lot of targets this year. With Julio Jones not in Atlanta anymore, it's going to be him and Calvin Ridley carrying that passing game with Matt Ryan. So I'm going to have him at 128, tight end number 5. 127, running back number 12, Kareem Hunt. Can't crack the top 10 because he's not going to get the carries. He's a top 10 running back in terms of talent. But again, will not get the touches because he's working behind Nick Chubb. And we saw Chubb get hurt last year. Injuries have been a thing with him over the past couple of years, and even going back to Georgia. So I think Kareem Hunt could see some starting snaps this year. But even if he doesn't, he's still going to have touches to justify being a top 200 player. Maybe not a top 130 player, but he'll certainly be a top 200 player just because of how good he is in the passing game. Just like I said, he's a very good running back. He's arguably a top 10 running back talent-wise in the NFL. Number 126, wide receiver 15, Adam Felin. I think people highly underestimate how good Adam Felin is. And you'll see, he's very good in terms of just being efficient, not dropping passes, gets involved in the red zone. Adam Thielen is a highly underrated wide receiver. He's wide receiver 15 for me. Number 125, running back 11, Antonio Gibson. I'm expecting a breakout year. Ron Rivera loved to ride Christian McCaffrey in Carolina, both in the passing and rushing game. Antonio Gibson gives you a little bit of that as well, so I think he's going to get a lot of touches this year. I kind of wish I had him higher than 125 in retrospect. Mark Andrews, tight end number 4, number 124 overall, just got an extension from the Baltimore Ravens. So this number here, there's a number here on the screen, by the way. I have a card with him that says his contract 4 years, $3.453 million. That's no longer accurate. He's got an extension. He's going to be around in Baltimore for a long time. They love him there. And so is Lamar Jackson because he works well in the area of the field Lamar likes to target in the middle of the field. Number 123, cornerback number 10, Denzel Ward, followed by number 122, running back number 10, Ezekiel Elliott. It's a lot of 10s here. Ward, very good player. Just injuries keep robbing him of 3 or 4 games a year, which really hurts his value, keeps him from being an all-pro or a higher-ranked corner. Ezekiel Elliott, coming off the worst year of his career. A lot of that had to do with Dallas' offensive line. Does some of it have to do with age regression? It's hard to tell because, again, the offensive line was so bad last year. But at the same point, he's right around that age and right around that touch count where guys like Gurley, Bell start to go south. So you have to see if he's going to rebound this year or if things are going to start trending in the wrong direction. Number 121, guard number 9, because he's playing guard this year instead of tackle, Michael Onwenu for the New England Patriots. He was very, very good last year. I wish I got his last name right in the first try. But he was very good last year for the New England Patriots. He played tackle for them at that point, played right tackle. Now he's moving inside guard because they brought back Trent Brown. So they're going to have a beast of an offensive line in the running game. And Onwenu is certainly going to help out in that role. He's going to be even better this year, I think, than last year, too. Now he's moving inside the guard. He was just a monster, like I said, a monster last year. The guy who really gets after it in the running game, really moves bodies. So you're going to see a lot of maybe power running from the Patriots this year as they get Mac Jones acclimated to the NFL. Number 120, look, it's in the New England Patriots. Isaiah Wynn, offensive tackle 14. He's good and healthy. He's just not healthy often. So that's going to be the issue. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a top 15 tackle in the NFL. If he can't stay healthy, well, he won't even be a top 200 player. Number 119, Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 14 for me. Down year this past season. A lot of that had to do with Jared Goff, and Jared Goff struggling to run the offense. Stafford's involved now. Stafford is an upgrade over Jared Goff. Not a superstar, but certainly upgrade over Jared Goff. Will make life a lot easier in Cooper Kupp. He should have over 1,000 receiving yards this season. Number 118, Jeffrey Simmons, interior defensive lineman number 11 for the Tennessee Titans. Going to improve this year. Going to have to improve this year because that Titans defense really needs as many stars as they can find. Simmons was a steal for them. He's going to be an effective player. The issue is that there's just a lot of younger defense linemen who are as good as Jeffrey Simmons, if not better. They're going to see show up in the top 200 guys like Quinton Williams, Jonathan Allen. They're just going to stay ahead of Jeffrey Simmons throughout his time in the NFL. Number 117, Taylor Decker is offensive tackle 13. Decker has been highly underrated in Detroit, but against Detroit, so it's hard to really get yourself to shine in that kind of city on that kind of team, especially when you're an offensive lineman. You just don't get the publicity that you need to really get your due. 116, Josh Jacobs, running back number 9. I don't really know how Kenyon Drake's involvement is going to affect his carry total. I don't know if it will affect that at all. But Josh Jacobs is probably going to struggle to be efficient behind that offensive line in Las Vegas. They have had a lot of changeover. So it's going to be troublesome to see what his average is going to look like in terms of yards per carry or yards per touch, but still one of the better power backs in the NFL. And a top 10 back in the top 200. 115, safety number 14, Jordan Coyer for the Buffalo Bills. And then 114, safety number 13 for the Denver Broncos, Kareem Jackson. A little bit different style of players, but again, safeties are really starting to come up here. It's really starting to show up. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde are huge for Buffalo. They really control the pace of the game for the Bills. Kareem Jackson, a highly underrated safety who's been really good for Denver since arriving there. Number 113, Roquan Smith, he's linebacker 7. Still struggles sometimes asserting himself in the running game, but had that breakout year in pass coverage he desperately needed. He was really good in coverage in Georgia in college. Was not good in coverage at all when he first came to the NFL. It took him 2 or 3 years to build that back up, but then was phenomenal in coverage this past year. 113 overall, linebacker number 7. 112, edge number 17, Montez Sweat from the Washington football team. He's going to have a great year playing alongside Chase Young, playing alongside Jonathan Allen and Darren Payne, that whole defensive front. Sweat just has so much athletic ability. He's going to be a very good edge rusher. I don't know if he'll ever be a superstar, but he's always going to be a productive edge rusher. Number 111, offensive tackle 12, Laremy Tunsil. He's just playing with not a lot around him, so he's going to struggle this year. And it's not necessarily going to be his fault. It's just numbers will look bad. There are going to be a lot of pressures against that offensive line. There's going to be a lot of sacks. And the running game's not going to go well. And Tunsil's always been a better pass protector than run blocker anyways. But there's just going to be a lot of noise around Tunsil this year. It's going to be hard to judge how good he actually was this season because the pieces around him are not up to par. Number 110, offensive tackle 11, Taylor Moton for the Carolina Panthers, one of the best right tackles in the NFL. Recently got an extension and well-deserved. 109, Budda Baker, safety number 12. Budda Baker is another player to me who's a little overrated in NFL circles. He was an all-pro this past year. He's a great box safety. He's decent in coverage, but to me, he does not excel enough in any one area to really promote him up here as being a top 10 safety, let alone being an elite safety. I'd say top 4 kind of guy. And also, a lot of safeties were hurt last year or missing action. I think those guys will rebound and push Budda Baker down the rankings a little bit. Shaq Mason comes in at 108, guard number 8. Him and Onwenu are just going to be beasts for the Patriots this year. There's no one else to say. They're going to be dominant. That offensive line is going to be just blow defense linemen off the line of scrimmage and create an easy running game for the New England Patriots. 117, Derrick Carr, QB12. Derrick Carr could probably go in the top 100, honestly. He's a very good quarterback. He is. He's not the MVP candidate. People thought he might be in like 2013, 2014. I forget how long ago that was. But there was thought that he might be an MVP at some point. Now, we're well past that point. But he's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL the past couple of years. Just not turning the ball over a lot. Completes a high percentage of passes. And he does all that while basically having Darren Waller and no one else catching the ball. Hunter Renfro is his second best wide receiver. And that's not to knock Hunter Renfro. I'm a Clemson guy. I know how good Hunter Renfro is. But again, it's the NFL. You need something a little bit better than your slot receiver as your second option like that. 106, center number 2, Frank Ragnall for the Detroit Lions. Detroit has some really good offensive linemen there. And if Penei Sewell works out, I know he didn't look good this offseason, but he works out well, they're going to have one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. 105, the interior defensive lineman number 10, and 104, interior defensive lineman number 9. Jonathan Allen's at 105. Leonard Williams is at 104. Jonathan Allen, up-and-coming interior defensive lineman, did not have a lot of sacks this past year. Moved from defensive end to interior defensive lineman to defensive tackle, but was very good against the run, applied a lot of pressure. It's trending in the right direction. Leonard Williams, on the other hand, set a career high in sacks, really benefited from playing alongside guys like Dexter Lawrence and just getting to play freely, really. Play much better and much more free than he was with the New York Jets when he actually has the teammates around who can apply pressure as well. There is a core of that defense that can help Leonard Williams succeed and be that kind of Pro Bowler that he's expected to be in New York. Is he ever going to be a superstar in the interior? I don't believe so. He's never going to be on the same level as Chris Jones, but he's still going to be a solid interior defensive line. Number 103, quarterback number 11, Matt Ryan, another guy who could have deserved to be in the top 100, but Matt Ryan has not been as good the past 2 years as he was in the past. The past 2 years have been a drop for Matt Ryan based on where he was previously. I think that's pretty notable. Now, could that have a lot to do with the offensive line, the lack of a running game? Absolutely. But I don't really think that's not going to change this year. The offensive line is still going to be very questionable. They're still not going to be able to run the ball. So it's going to be a lot of up and down for Matt Ryan this year, especially without Julio Jones. That's one of the storylines to keep an eye on here. Number 102, another guy I really wanted to stick in the top 200. I just couldn't. Brandon Graham, edge for Philadelphia, edge 16 overall. He's been highly productive, highly underrated throughout his entire career. I think he made the Pro Bowl for the first time this past season. It's just that he's towards the back end of his career. It's gotten better with age to some extent, but just not a top 10 defensive end with all the young guys they have in the league right now. Just not a top 10 edge rusher. Maybe a top 10 defensive end, but not an edge rusher overall. And the final guy we're going to talk about here, number 101, guard number 7, Joe Clooney for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have to succeed in the Chiefs system. They're going to pass the ball. Joe Clooney is a better pass blocker than run blocker. He's really going to help them out quite a bit, and it's going to be so noticeable because he's going to be on a Chiefs offensive line that has some holes, has a lot of youth on it as well. Guys like Trey Smith and just that tackle as well, losing Eric Fisher, losing Mitchell Schwartz, all in one offseason. He's going to have a lot of time to improve. Not to improve necessarily, but he's going to improve that offensive line significantly. And again, being one of the veteran presences on a very young or very heavily turned over offensive line, it's going to be quite clear. I think Joe Clooney's going to have a really good year. After being a little bit down this past season, they were running the ball so much in New England, not passing as much. I think Joe Clooney's going to bounce back and again assert himself as one of the top 10 guards in the NFL. But for now, that's all for this episode. I'll post another one soon, finishing up when you go from players number 100 to 150. Next episode, then 50 to 100. We can finish counting down the top 200. And again, if you want to actually just read the article yourself instead of listening to this long video or long podcast, you can just go to my Twitter account, Sam_Teets33. That's SAM_TEETS33. The pinned tweet is a link to my Substack newsletter, which is where all these articles are hosted. You can go there, you can check them all out for free. If you want to, you can subscribe with your email account so you get updates on all my latest posts and content. But again, that will cost you no money whatsoever. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope to talk to you all soon.